Almost every action in Stardew Valley requires energy, from cutting down trees to picking up objects. Last time my goal was to complete the community center without using a single point of energy, which we did with a lot of difficulty. Next up, we're going to try to enter the Walnut room, first requiring us to get to Ginger Island, and then requiring us to collect 101 golden walnuts to open the door. Now, as you might recall, at the end of the last video I said that I made a huge mistake. This run is so specific that I'm learning new things even as I play, and as it turns out, the mistake isn't as bad as I thought. We'll get to that once it comes up later. Our last journey ended with hardwood being the last item turned in, since not only did we need to find 10 pieces without actually being able to access mahogany trees, we also needed to secure a solid supply of them for the future, thus the woodskip pond. When it's full of 10 woodskip, there's a 7% chance to get 5 pieces of hardwood. After completing the community center, we do unlock a couple of things. Since the pantry bundles were the last thing finished, we now have access to the quarry. Blowing up this field every few days can be easy mining levels. The Witch's Swamp quest opens up, and we can start working on the missing bundle, but the only thing we currently care about is Willie's boat to Ginger Island. To repair it, we need 3 things: 5 iridium bars, 5 battery packs, and 200 hardwood. Batteries aren't a problem. Since we had to play through so many years, we naturally accumulated batteries through all of those stormy days. So that's already done. Near the end of the community center run, I did skip out on 5 incredibly expensive iridium bars in the traveling cart. And since that's such a rare event, there were dozens of comments predicting that I would come to regret that decision. So in response, let's get all the iridium that we need in one day. I've had this freebie crystallarium you get from the vault bundles for a long time, constantly producing jade, which I can trade on Sunday at the Desert Trader for 130 staircases. But before we go to the Skull Cavern, we do have to finish out the mines. I hadn't actually bothered completing them yet since you don't need to for the community center. I pretty much just staircased the entire way down, leaving us with 97 staircases left over. And with the skeleton key, we can access the Skull Cavern. I'm going in pretty bare bones. I have plenty of bombs since I can just buy them from the dwarf now, and since I'm staircasing down, I shouldn't need too many food items. And so the first dive begins. As you could probably expect, my best weapon being the insect head isn't perfect. But if I ever get in a hairy situation, I can just staircase away. Here's our first iridium ore node. Yeah. Important to note while going through here, I do have the secret note for reaching floor 100 of the Skull Cavern, and while I don't have 100 staircases, natural ladder spawns are more than enough to make up for it. On my way down, I found 4 prismatic shards, which is huge since they can allow me to upgrade all the way from an insect head to the galaxy sword, leaving the rest either for tool enchantments or the prismatic shard key quest. On top of that, from the later floors, I earned more than enough iridium for 5 bars. And then we reach floor 100. As opposed to all the star drops that are useless for a no energy run, the snake milk increasing my max health will actually be pretty nice. Except, on floor 101, I noticed that my movement speed has been slowed, meaning we did something that used energy. It was the snake milk. As it turns out, thank you Blade, it drains 2 energy upon drinking, which is what gives you the little disgust bubble in the cutscene. Mind you, this isn't listed in the wiki, nor anywhere in game. It's just such a small decrease that there's almost no way it would ever be noticed, except for this run where it's catastrophic. And even then, if Blade hadn't have gone into the code to see what it does, I still wouldn't have known exactly what happened. There's only one thing to be done: restart the day and do everything again, this time not drinking the milk. Luckily, nothing in the game requires that the milk be drank, not even perfection. But it does stop us from going too deep into the Skull Cavern, which limits our iridium ore hauls, and not getting that 25 HP is unfortunate. The second run wasn't too different. I did still find a prismatic shard, just 1, not 4 of them. But the run did end prematurely when I entered a floor where I was completely surrounded by rocks. Nowhere to place a bomb, nowhere to place a staircase. All I could do was leave. Even with that, I still collected enough iridium ore. Before leaving the desert, I did grab the galaxy sword, which is a must-have, and our efforts netted us level 7 mining. It takes a few days for our iridium ore to smelt, and that's now 2 of the 3 sets of items we need to repair the boat. All that's left is hardwood. Collecting the hardwood, mostly from our fish pond, is simply a case of continuing to sleep until we get it all. And I predict that this will be the longest grind in the entire playthrough. So to get us through it, every few days I employ what I call not getting bored activities that prepare us for the game past this grind, such as grabbing the gold scythe from the quarry cave, harvesting our tea saplings to make some extra money, and using that money to finally grab the second inventory upgrade. And we're sleeping. So let's do some math while we're waiting. With the 7% chance to get 5 hardwood, how long on average will it take to get 200? And by let's do the math, I mean plug it into a calculator. So at 581 days, that's the point where we would have had a 50% chance to get 200 hardwood. That's over 5 in-game years if we check every single day. That's quite a while, so I'm looking for ways to speed that up. At the Desert Festival, if Leah ever opens up her shop, she sells up to 100 hardwood for 3 calico eggs each. I checked every year, and she never opened up. Funny enough though, Maru did, and she sells even more iridium bars. With nothing else useful to spend my eggs on, I grab them. So that plan is out. To speed things up instead, I'm going to build more fish ponds, which is a whole ordeal. Since I can't fish up green algae, I'll have to grind it out from slimes instead. Same with seaweed, can't fish it up, so I have to forage it. Then I just barely don't have room to place it down next to the other one. So I go back, clear it with a bomb, then place it down. So whenever we set up a new fish pond, we need another wood skip. We can't just fish one out of our existing pond, so we need to empty it completely, which forces all of the fish out to be collected. Then we can distribute them out into both of the ponds. Unfortunately, this means we now need to do the quests for both ponds, which costs 10 hardwood each. While it's a pretty big immediate resource cost, I think it'll be much quicker in the long run. And through this whole process, I'm still juggling not letting my farm become overgrown, so I'm spreading grass whenever I can. And it's back to the grind. At the very least, we are getting a pretty good amount of fishing experience, set up to be our first level 10 soon. About a year of hardwood collection later, I'm convinced that I need to repeat the whole process for a third fish pond, this time set up to the right of the existing ponds. And now we're gaming. Few things feel better than a double hardwood spawn. Unfortunately, I don't think a triple spawn ever happened. We reached 100 hardwood in the fall of the second year of this grind. At this point, there's a possible second path we could have taken to earn hardwood. By paying 100 hardwood to repair the giant stump, then completing all of the raccoon quests, they eventually start selling mahogany seeds, which would easily be the fastest source of hardwood. But I didn't do that, mostly because at this point the hardwood was pouring in from the 3 ponds. But then there's also a chance we could have been asked to get very difficult items for the raccoon quests. For example, they can ask for smoked fish, and any fish that's not from a crab pot would be an issue, so I stuck with my plan. The grind finally ended on summer 4th of year 9. We started on fall 16th of year 6, so the grind totaled just short of 3 full years. Now, after the fact, I know you might be saying, hey, why didn't you just get level 10 foraging and use the lumberjack profession to get hardwood from regular trees? I streamed this on December 13th, 2024. At this time, both the lumberjack and forester professions didn't work if you only bombed trees. You needed to use your axe. This was stealth changed 1 week later. It's not in the patch notes, but it did happen. Well, with that, it's time to fix the boat. And I can't get in. So I've been avoiding reading this mail since when we completed the bulletin board bundles, there's a piece of mail that will gain 2 hearts with almost all villagers. And since I'm sleeping through a ton of days, I didn't want all of that to decay. It seems I'm finally forced to read it since the letter for opening up the room to the boat is behind it. Now we're allowed access, and I donated all of the materials. The first major portion of phase 2 is complete. To follow that incredibly long grind for just 1 item, we get to enjoy the burst of progress that is collecting all of these simple walnuts. Any walnuts found on bushes were free to grab with no energy use. So we can get 2 in the jungle, but there's no way for us to get the 1 in the tree, even with bombs. Luckily though, it only costs 1 walnut to unlock Ginger Island North. So this next part is make or break. I didn't test it beforehand. Can bombs unearth the walnuts buried in the sand? Somehow, they can. despite bombs not working on artifact spots. We take those. Up north, there's a whopping 6 walnuts we can blow up from the ground and 4 more that we can harvest from bushes. Then there's the volcano. This is a pretty obvious roadblock. We can't cross the lava river without using the watering can. We'll worry about this if we have to. There's quite a lot of walnuts locked behind the volcano, but we might not even need them. So we'll collect everything else first. From the north, we were able to grab just enough walnuts to unlock Ginger Island West, the real gold mine. Just like the other areas, there's 6 free walnuts blown up from the ground and 9 more from bushes. As for the weirder walnuts, I was worried that muscle nodes might only produce golden walnuts when broken with a pickaxe. There's plenty of other weird cases where you have to specifically use a tool, but I was happy to be proven wrong. This boulder here hides a buried walnut under it, but it can only be broken by a steel pickaxe or better. No bombs. There was also this weird interaction where bombs could hoe the spot underneath a boulder without having to break the boulder itself, but that was patched out a while ago, so it's unobtainable for now. Birdie's quest shouldn't be a problem. It's year 9, so Kent is already here. There's nothing stopping us from slaying the tiger slimes, and that's all the time we have on this day, so I use one of the freebie tents we can find in the jungle. First thing the next day, we complete the Simon Says puzzle for 3 more walnuts, and after that, I have just enough golden walnuts to build the farmhouse, which I only do because it's required before unlocking Ginger Island East. That pretty much does it for any of the immediate walnuts I can grab. For the rest, I'll have to prepare some items or wait a few days. I'll need at least 10 more walnuts to unlock our next area. While I'm back in Pelican Town, I can real quick knock out Birdie's quest. This is also where I realize I've never actually entered the oasis yet, since I get the cutscene. The quest went fine. I did forget to give Willy the worm before heading back. Nobody's perfect. I did bring the stuff though, a wheat, melon, and garlic seed along with the sprinkler to water them. This is for the gourmand frog and will net us a huge 15 walnuts once they're all grown. Originally, I thought we couldn't get the Diglett dude here, but after covering the other holes with pads and a naturally spawned coral, funny enough, turns out you can scythe it. And now that I brought my slingshot, we can grab this walnut. And yes, you saw correctly, the energy bar shook. Don't worry, the slingshot for sure doesn't use any energy. We're still sitting at 1. Essentially, the marker for a tool not causing an energy bar shake is for it to be a melee weapon, which the scythe happens to fall under. Slingshots are not a melee weapon, so just like the other tools, the game signals that the energy bar should shake, despite the energy usage being 0. This also happens with the pan, which is another tool that doesn't use any energy. I did go back to the mainland and give Willy the worm so we can complete that quest next time we head back to the island. I've been running low on bombs, and while checking to see if I could make more, I noticed how low I was on ore too. So I go and clear out the quarry for the first time. This is still one of the most satisfying things you can do in this game. Makes for some pretty good mining experience too, pushing us up to level 8. From the rocks, I got one of the secret notes for the strange dolls, which gives me an idea. Since bombs work for the walnut spots, will it? It will. That's huge. They're a huge pain to get otherwise. I go ahead and grab the one in the desert too while we're at it. That's pretty much everything I wanted to do on the mainland, so I head back to Ginger Island and turn in the locket for 5 more walnuts. And with that, it's time to skip some days. After a few days of straight sleeping, we get a rainy day, which we need to start the bird gem quest. Sleeping through days also allows more muscle nodes to spawn, and that's where we get another walnut. That's 2 out of 5 from the muscle nodes. And immediately after, I get a golden coconut from shaking a tree. There's quite a few walnuts locked behind these coconuts, so I'm gonna have to find as many as I can. Today's bird gem was an emerald down south, 3 to go. I slept straight until we got another rainy day. That's a topaz in the east. And then it took a lot of sleeping until we got to the next rainy day. And in that time, the wheat got destroyed. This is going to be a bit of a theme on this farm. The weeds spread incredibly fast, so I can't go too long without checking it. I have learned that this is actually where speedruns often farm for fiber or the living hat, if that's part of the run, because there's just that much fiber here. Well, losing the wheat's not that big of a deal. Luckily, wheat seeds are still sold in fall, and they only take 4 days to grow. It's also lucky that I accidentally planted an extra Terra tuber around the sprinkler. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the space to plant it without using more bombs and blowing up the sprinkler. The third bird gem was an aquamarine up north. There's only 1 more to go. I had an amethyst on me, so I tried it, but it was wrong. So the only other gem it could be now is a ruby. I sleep away a few more days until that wheat grows, and that'll be a whopping 15 walnuts from the gourmand frog. And if you're curious, that marks us reaching the halfway point for the walnuts. We're at 53 by the doors count, and that gives us enough to open up Ginger Island East, which I decided to open up before the dig site because most of the walnuts we get from the dig site are from fossils, and who knows how long that could take. The only walnuts we can grab immediately from the east are 2 spots that we blow up. Unfortunately, we can't fish up the one that's hidden in the star pond, and for the rest we'll have to come back on certain days for. Not to mention, we're also going to need the flute blocks for the mermaid puzzle. So that's what we head out to take care of. We need 7 hearts with Robin, and lucky enough, her birthday's coming up soon. While I get this friendship with Robin, your question might be, hey, why don't you just get the flute block from the museum and do the trick where you only need 1? Well, that would be because after I place down the flute block, much like every other machine and chest, I'm not able to pick it back up with the axe or the pickaxe, so I'm forced to place down all 5. For Robin's birthday, there is a way that I could get her friendship up super quick. If I get enough tickets for the Star Drop tea from the prize ticket machine, we could give her both a loved gift and the tea on her birthday to skyrocket her all the way up to 10 hearts, so we wouldn't have to worry about her decaying after this. And of course, that's when this darn quest pops up. The prismatic jelly. I hate it. Next to Junimo Kart, it's probably my least favorite thing to do in Stardew Valley, every playthrough. But it might be worth it just for the free ticket. So you can guess what my next few days are spent doing. Reloading mines floors over and over again. I consider myself lucky that it only took about a day and a half to find the prismatic slime, about 30 minutes real time. For the quest, we get a pretty nice chunk of change and the monster musk recipe, which will actually be really useful in the future. But it's that ticket I'm after, and it's the last one I needed for that juicy Star Drop tea. If you don't know, when gifted, Star Drop tea is a flat 1 heart increase for everyone and 3 hearts on their birthday. Plus, it's not limited by regular gift limits. So Robin's birthday comes around, we give her both spaghetti and the Star Drop, immediately putting her at 8 hearts total, which is enough to earn the flute block recipe. I'll keep giving her gifts for the next few weeks just to push her up to 10 hearts. Actually, crafting the flute blocks isn't an issue. We have enough to craft 5 immediately, and it's back to Ginger Island. I got yet another walnut from the muscle notes, that's 3 out of 5 now. And we can only do the flute block puzzle on rainy days, so we sleep until we get one. I get them all set up, and it's very important for me not to misclick here, since resetting the flute blocks will be very annoying without being able to pick them up. Luckily, there's no problems, and I earn 5 more walnuts. That happens to be just enough to open up the dig site, making another slew of walnuts available. First things first, we let Professor Snail out, starting both the fossil quest and unlocking the quiz walnuts, which we'll get later. And we can get some quick and dirty foraging experience from the mushrooms. There's another spot to bomb, as well as 3 more bush walnuts. And then we knock out the 2 quizzes for 2 more walnuts. And that brings us to the fossils, which are a bit of a tragedy. We can get almost all of these pieces, save for 2. Specifically, the snake skull is available from 2 different sources, and both happen to be impossible for us. Artifact spots and fishing. Then for the large animal, the most lucrative of all of the fossils, it's only impossible because of 1 piece. The fossilized spine, which needs to be fished up. And then we do have the bat, which technically we're not completely locked out of, but you need to get through the volcano. Which leaves the frog. 1 walnut. Not ideal. Refocusing on the walnuts we can get, we still haven't gotten any from plucking crops. So I bombed the edge of our farm, set up some sprinklers, and get crops going. I went into the jungle to quickly grab that mummified frog. It's a 10% spawn from fiber after you unlock the field station, so it's pretty much guaranteed. And I finally remembered to bring a ruby to finish up that bird quest, which is 5 free nuts. And turning in the frog earned us another nut. As for the other fossils we can find, I'll fill them in anyway. They're all pretty common spawns, with the only one we'll actually need to hunt for being the skull from the golden coconuts and the tail from panning. Speaking of golden coconuts, it's about time we pop open that one we've been hoarding. And the first one is a guaranteed nut. While we're in town, I'm gonna go grab some starfruit seeds because more than likely, we're not gonna get all of our walnuts from the crops we have currently planted on Ginger Island, and we might as well make some good money while we grind them out. At this point, I've accumulated more than enough walnuts to unlock the Island Trader. It's important pretty much just for the 10 coconuts to 1 golden coconut trade. And yes, we get the fossilized skull from them, but more importantly, we get the banana tree. Because we can't get into the volcano, the absolute only way we can get the banana sapling is a 1 in 7 chance from golden coconuts. So we'll be collecting as many coconuts as we can to make those trades. Already we can grab 2. It took me so long to get these next walnuts because I always forget if it's an even or odd day that it's open, but on this even night, we can head into the Pirates Cove and sweep the darts game, getting 3 more walnuts. The next morning, I got the first of 5 crop walnuts from some taro roots I randomly planted since they don't need watering or anything. I got enough coconuts to trade for another golden one, and then I try our luck. I popped all 3 open and, well, you can't really ask for better luck than that. The banana tree is planted, that'll take a month to grow, and we've hit the point where there's not really too many things we can do for walnuts. All we can do is sleep a bunch of days, check the muscle nodes, check the crops, and sleep some more. In the meantime, I set up some preserves jars so that we can get more out of our star fruit. Over time, it's getting increasingly obvious that I'm getting very unlucky with the crop walnuts. I should be getting about 1 or 2 golden walnuts per harvest, but by the time the bananas were ready, I still haven't gotten my second crop walnut. At the very least, that's 3 more walnuts from the banana stand. It took a while, but by summer 3rd of year 10, I found all of the muscle node and crop golden walnuts. In the process, I got the first of 3 jungle notes that can unlock new buried walnuts. Much to my enjoyment, I am allowed to bomb these. Just to be thorough, and because I'm really bad at counting, I continued harvesting crops and bombing muscle nodes for a while until I was absolutely sure I got all the walnuts from them, during which I reached level 10 farming. It really does fly when harvesting starfruit. They give so much experience. I chose the artisan profession and earned us a little walking around money. So where does that leave us? At this point now, I've collected every single golden walnut I can collect before entering the volcano, save for 2 that are unlocked from secret notes that we've just yet to find. And we have 88 out of the 100 we need. Well, I was hoping to avoid this, but we now have no choice. We need to deal with the volcano. Originally, when I first revealed this run in a post on YouTube, a lot of the comments were guessing where I would end up getting stuck. Many comments were stuck on how we'd get fish for the community center or how we'd get hardwood without the secret woods, but by far the most common was that we'd get stuck from entering the volcano. And indeed, in a run all about bottlenecks where there's only 2 or 3 ways to move on, this is perhaps the tightest bottleneck of all. And this is where that devastating mistake I mentioned earlier was. So I want to take you through every possible option here because it is dastardly how specific the details are that lock us out of the volcano. We can't use the tried and true watering can to get through. It uses energy. Many people suggested that I try putting sprinklers down, but unfortunately they're deleted overnight before they actually get a chance to sprinkle the next morning. And that parrot you can pay to build the bridge only appears after you reach the forge for the first time. Now, if we did have access to the forge, we could enchant the watering can with efficient, which not only lowers the amount of energy a tool uses, it erases it entirely. But of course, we can't enchant anyway since we can't reach the forge because we can't cross the lava river, a classic case of opening the scissors packaging without scissors. I know what you'll say next. The mini forge that was added with mastery in 1.6. We can use that to enchant tools whenever we want. Well, we could, but there's 2 things we need. Dragon teeth for the crafting recipe, which can actually be collected. There is a rare chance for lava lurkers to spawn in this lava river, and if they roam close enough to you, you could knock them out for a chance at their dragon tooth drop. Very rare, but possible. But we also need cinder shards for the enchantment itself. Cinder shards that are only found in the volcano behind the lava river. Or so I thought. There are 3 places you can get cinder shards in other places. First, stingray ponds. Tough luck though, because Ginger Island fish aren't obtainable in any way without straight up fishing. Or I suppose panning for them with the fisher enchantment, but that's an enchantment. And even if we could somehow get the stingray, one of the items they'll always ask for before they can ever produce cinder shards are cinder shards themselves. Double locked out. Oh, lucky us though, the second way you can find cinder shards is from skull cavern chests, a whopping 10 to 20 at a time. Oh wait, only if you've already unlocked the volcano shortcut. Locked out. There's one more way, and this shows the most promise. Due to what seems to be a bug, very rarely, cinder shard nodes can spawn in the lobby of the volcano in front of the lava river. This is it. This is the only way we can collect cinder shards. And it was patched out in version 1.6. This brings us to what I thought was the major mistake. Not starting this run in version 1.5. Originally, after completing the community center, my plan was to replay all the way up to this point in version 1.5. Then, after collecting the cinder shards I needed from the bug, patch it up to 1.6 and utilize them in the mini forge. This would have been inelegant, but it would have worked. The thing is, due to the fact that it was patched out, it could be considered a bug, and if I used it, that would go against my rule of not using glitches or exploits. So, all of that to say, I'm not using the mini forge. At this point though, I was reminded by Blade about the Statue of Blessings. It has a blessing that provides infinite energy for the day. Now before I started the run, I had written it off, mostly due to the wording of the buff. Grants infinite energy. This implies you're still using that energy, it just doesn't show since you have an infinite amount. Upon testing though, it doesn't even refill energy. Mechanically, all it does is prevent you from using any energy at all, just like the efficient enchantments. Because of this, I'll allow it to be used once. After I use it to cross the river, it's going to be benched forever. Now, just because we know what to do now doesn't mean it'll be easy. I'll still need to reach level 10 in all stats, and currently, I'm not even close. Not only that, but the Statue of Blessings is notorious for its ridiculous cost to craft. So that's our next big grind. To kick it off, I'm focusing on leveling up mining and combat since they're the least affected by us not being able to use any energy. The method? A couple of runs in the Skull Cavern where we can also work towards getting more Iridium bars, the Monster Slayer goals, not to mention the 999 stone for the crafting recipe of the Statue of Blessings. While going through, giant purple slimes are going to be the heaviest focus since they give 20 experience and then each offshoot slime gives 10 more. Surprisingly, the first level we gained was in mining. Gold and Iridium ore nodes are nothing to sneeze at. And slaying enemies is a bit of a 2-for-1 deal since they also have a chance to drop the book Combat Quarterly, further increasing our combat experience by 250 points. That's one nice addition. If at any point we get super stuck from experience gains, we can always buy the books that give us experience. From that mining level up, we got the Crystallarium recipe, which is actually a pretty big deal. Right now, the only Crystallarium we have is making jade. And as of version 1.6, the only way to change the gem it's making is by breaking it, which we can't do. So now we have the option to get some other gems going if we ever need to. Day 2 at the Skull Cavern, and if you thought things were going a little too smooth for a man who hasn't enjoyed the zest of snake milk, you'd be right. We can't give up though. This is pretty much the only place I can get decent combat experience since the volcano is walled off. The next day I ran out of food, and so I left the run early and took a trip to the quarry, which is fully refilled over the time since we last visited. And that's all it took for level 10 mining. I grabbed blacksmith. I'm still swimming in coal from all the way back when I originally made my way through the mines. I continued my Skull Cavern grind with help from the monster musk recipe we unlocked earlier. Since I don't have to worry about mining experience now, I can just enter floor 1 over and over again, slaying whatever monsters are there and then leaving. And I might have taken a couple of knockouts, but it'll be worth it. Now, this whole time that I'm running through Skull Cavern days, I'm also upgrading the pan. It's gone through quite a few changes in the last few patches that could make it useful. First, it's upgradable, allowing it to find many more items at once, and for every unique item it pans up, you earn 7 foraging experience. And foraging is pretty rough to level up, so it could be useful later. For now though, it's back to the Skull Caverns. It took 6 dedicated days of knocking out monsters until finally, we got it. The 3rd level 10, and I took the brute profession. This leaves fishing and foraging, the 2 more boring skills to max. And pretty slow too, since we can't use the main methods you would usually use to level these 2 skills up, cutting trees and catching fish. So remember what we spent like 5 minutes at the beginning of the video doing? Yeah, we're doing that again. The amount of experience we get from checking fish ponds is a bit complicated. It's based on the sell price of the item collected. At minimum, you get 10 experience, and then you get extra experience points by multiplying the sell price of the item by 0.04. Now this is particularly rough for wood skips, where they often produce resources like wood, acorns, maple seeds, pine cones, and hardwood, all of which give the minimum experience of 10. Only the row is higher, and that's just at 12 because it rounds down. So having the crab pots on the side is pretty good since they always give 5 experience each. I'll be using both of them to get our level ups. Every now and again I went back to Ginger Island just to make sure the debris doesn't take over my starfruit, and while culling the fiber I got the second hidden walnut note. That's Walnut 89. And I did unlock the Iridium pan, and I decided to see what it can do at the dig site, since pan spots are more common here than anywhere else. Unfortunately, I found that I was still usually getting 2 to 3 unique items most times, which is only 14 or 21 experience. And since panning spots are relatively rare, that's pretty slow. So it's back to the tried and true. One thing I did do to break up the monotony was go on a tree bombing spree for a couple of reasons. First, it clears out the farm a bit, and eventually I do want to completely clear it out, and bombing the trees doesn't actually give me any experience, but I do need the sap. 999 of it, in fact. And last, it opened up a path to the greenhouse, which had tons of supply crates that have been locked out for a while. So I have my fishing experience pretty well figured out. What do I do about foraging? It's still lagging behind at level 7, which, as a reminder, isn't even halfway to level 10. I can't very well just walk around the entire map every week and pick up forageables, because that'll take ages. Panning proved to be even slower than that, and trees are useless to me. There is one other option. Introducing the mushroom log. In terms of experience gain, they're pretty much like crab pots. 5 experience each time they're checked. Only difference is they produce once every 4 days, so it's a bit slower, but it is by far our best option. I lined this area that we have cleared out for fish ponds with them, so now I have a pretty good loop of walking out of the house, grabbing everything that's been produced, and repeat until I'm level 10. Every now and again, the bookstore opens, and it seems to pretty consistently carry experience books for skills that I haven't maxed out yet. And although it's pretty expensive, I grabbed any foraging books every time I saw them. And that's about it. These last 2 level 10s took 2 real-time hours. And there's only so much I can do to speed it up. Craft a few more mushroom logs, get some speed buffs. I guess I did take the opportunity to walk around during the green rain day, since those big bushes give 15 foraging experience each, and I need 333 moss. But yeah, fall 13th of year 11 is the day. We have hit level 10 in all stats, and I took Angler and Lumberjack for our professions. With that, we get the notification that a new way has opened up. That would be the Mastery Cave, where we can choose between a skill to earn mastery in, gaining a few benefits related to that skill. Farming is the one we need to choose first, but before that, we also need to earn another 10,000 experience. Now don't fret, it's not as bad as it sounds. That's only 2/3 of the experience you need to get a skill to level 10, and we're allowed to gain experience in any skill we want. In fact, a while ago, I bought the Book of Stars from one of our bookseller trips. It gives a massive 250 experience in every skill. And if we use that now with all of our skills maxed out, it instead adds 1,125 experience to our mastery total. Quite the start. And then remember how level 10 mining was so quick? Yeah, I'm just gonna do that again, bomb the entire quarry. And now we can actually see how much experience it gives us. About 1,500 for 5 seconds of work. And to add on to that, let's get our greenhouse in a better position and start filling it up. I had to clear out a little bit of space, but this is going to be huge. So the thing about the greenhouse is that any hoed spots here will stay hoed forever. No longer will I have to worry about rebombing the ground and ruining our sprinklers. No debris will ever spawn. It's perfect for a run like this. And even with farming experience getting nerfed for mastery, it was nerfed for a reason. Even at half experience gain, it's crazy fast. With this setup, it takes basically no time at all to get all of that experience. And then we head on in and grab our farming mastery. Alongside the Statue of Blessings recipe, this also comes with the Iridium Scythe, which is conveniently another tool that uses no energy. And the ability to find golden animal crackers, which I don't really see being too useful. Thanks to our due diligence on grinding resources while raising our levels, all I needed was a bit more fiber. 10 guesses where I got it. And there it is. Now we just gotta keep sleeping until we get the Blessing of Energy. It's a 1 in 7 chance, so it's not too bad. And with that, we can take on the volcano. It feels incredibly weird to use the watering can in this run. But first, we head on to the left to grab the 2 golden walnuts there, and then head on upwards. So I'm gonna stay true to my word, the watering can usage ends there, which could be an issue. There's plenty of lava past this point, and there's even floors that are impossible to clear without crossing lava. And in that case, I would reset and try again another day. While going through, I'm not hunting for walnuts yet. The goal is to simply reach the end, because once we do that, we can pay the parrot for the bridge and never have to use the watering can to cross it again. Even then, I did find a few walnuts naturally, and at this point, I have plenty to blow, so I unlocked the shortcut halfway through. As for the difficulty of the volcano, honestly, it was pretty easy. Not too much of a challenge, especially compared to the Skull Cavern, and it definitely helps now that we're level 10 combat. Before too long, we've finally reached the forge, which opens up this run in so many ways. Immediately, we get 2 more walnuts and a free prismatic shard. As for the forge, there's nothing we need it for now, so we're out of here. Now with the bridge established, we can come and go freely, which is important because at this point, we just have to keep coming back into the volcano until we get all the walnuts we need. And just that one trip gave us 97, just 3 more needed. And the volcano has oodles. They drop from monsters, from rocks, chests, and there's still a mummified bat we can find here. As expected, it just takes one more trip. Nut from a rock, I found the mummified bat, and another nut from yet another rock. For our last 100th walnut, technically 101st, we turn in the bat. Phase 2 of this journey was so much harder than expected, but finally, here we are, done. Which brings us to the next point of order. What's phase 3? Well, you probably already know at this point, what else could there be to do? It's perfection. Absolutely everything else in the game we haven't done thus far, all while using no energy. Out of curiosity, I checked the perfection tracker to see where we stand. 19%. We have some work to do. That'll be next time though. See you then, and good night.